You're in the Business Insurance Zone with me, Steve Savant, national insurance columnist and financial color commentator. And on today's Biz, post-Obamacare and Obama tax series. Today's special, the Medicare investment tax with CPA Ken Davis.
When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I am your host, Steve Savant, and we're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial professionals right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And with us today, CLU, CHFC, CFP, and CPA Ken Davis.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, welcome back to the show for the billionth time. I mean, people sometimes ask me, hey, is Ken my co-host officially? Well, we have him on a lot, and what we're doing today is we're going to try to stay out of the politics of what we're going to talk about today and stay neutral because we are the arbiter of all that is truth in econ, right? However, what we're doing today is we're really going to talk through the ramifications only, the consequences of Obamacare, and today specifically on Medicare. And again, when I saw your notes on this, I don't know if Americans know what this number is because this seems punitive to me. Mm-hmm. Am I missing it?
No.
And I gotta say that when we get done with this week, again, we're only bringing out some of the ideas. Now we'll have solutions to all this as the week progresses, of course. But I wanna give you just a heads up. This could be a great time for people that are in the financial services and insurance professionals who really understand what we're talking about to really make end of the year planning moves. And I mean, it could be huge. It could make your day, your career for the rest of the year. I mean, it's really, we're talking about some really fundamental moves. Let's talk about it. Open us up right now, Ken. Talk about what was Medicare, how was that okay, how was it, and now what's happened?
Well, we've actually got a number of issues, but the most important issue is the fact that we have a brand new tax. And it comes from Obamacare, and it's the Medicare investment tax, and it's on net investment income. Now, I've always disliked the fact that the government tries to control the economy and social movement and stuff with taxes. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't care which party you're in. They've both done it. But so what they're doing right now is that it's a 3.8% tax on net investment income if you meet certain thresholds. And there's two thresholds that we have to, or three actually. One is for individual tax rates, for individuals filing individually, is a $200,000 modified adjusted gross income, MAGI.
Now when we say modified, I think a lot of people, I think Americans, we're just now coming to the point where we get adjusted gross income, right?
Right.
We're getting there, but modified is not adjusted.
Well, and this is really interesting, is the politicians are talking about income of being the rich people at $250,000, sometimes $200,000 is bandied about. I want to make sure that people understand. We are not talking about taxable income here. We're talking about modified adjusted gross income, and what that is on the bottom of page 1. It's a number that's computed. It's gross income minus certain business deductions to arrive at adjusted gross income on the bottom of the first page. That is prior to exemptions, for age 65 and kids and dependents and stuff like that, as well as itemized deductions or standard deduction, which is on the second page, and that's how you ultimately arrive at taxable income.
Well, so it's lower.
Well, it's lower, and so when they say first it's $250, well, it's $250 for married couples filing jointly. It's $200 for individuals, so it's not quite that $250 anymore. And then if you figure exemptions or whatever, maybe, or deductions like for interest on a home or whatever, and let's say it's another $20,000, so it goes from $200 for an individual down to $180. So I just wanted to make sure that we understand what our politicians are doing, is they're not being totally honest with us. They're not being direct. They're saying $250,000 of income. Well, that's not taxable income, and I think frequently we jump to that conclusion. But it's not. It's modified adjusted gross income. So it's AGI at the bottom of the table of the first page, and the modification is, in this case, certain foreign taxes, which we don't need to go into because most of our people listening, it's not going to impact them, and the CPA should get involved if they are. So it pretty much in this case is AGI. On other cases like the taxation, Social Security, like we've talked before, that's adding back in municipal bond interest, which is normally not taxable. It's adding in half of Social Security What's interesting is they use the term modified adjusted gross income. Well, it's different under these different specific parts of the code. It gets really confusing.
Well, I'm thinking, how confusing is it? Well, that's why we need CPAs and accountants, because
Sure.
it's very difficult to figure out I'd love to see them simplify the tax code. I don't know if I'll see that in my lifetime. It's just becoming more complicated, and after Obamacare, and especially if these sunset taxes, right? I mean, if this goes down at the end of the year, I think you're going to see a stranglehold right up to the last second.
Well, and what's interesting is, you bring up the other point. The 3.8% was what got me thinking about writing the article that I did and having the show. But when you add in the fact that the Bush tax cuts are being sunset at the end of this year, and January 1 next year, there's two new tax brackets at the top. And they jump from the maximum of 33 up to 36 and 39.6. That can be as much as another 6.6%. Then add the 3.8% to that
On the Medicare.
On the Medicare investment tax, and that becomes an issue, a major issue. Now, one other thing on the rules is the $200,000 and $250,000 for the AGI to trigger this new tax. Also, it has to have enough net investment income, which is kind of interesting. Who are investors? Well, they always like to point to the really rich billionaires, but it's a lot of the retired folks that are living off passive income. So it's going to hit them heavily.
And we're not talking about the most wealthiest Americans on this. We're talking about middle-class Americans. This tax is going to be so punitive. And this is where I think they're not, as you say, the politicians are not being direct. Well, Ken said it, they're not even being honest. Wow. Remember, you can watch this show on www.brokersalliance.com. You can always write us here at thebiz@brokersalliance.com or call us 1-800-290-7226. We come back after the break. We're going to talk more about Obamacare and Obama tax issues.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Companies in our business are always touting service, products, and underwriting. And we do that too. But here's the difference. Now enter the world of the elite producer with a value package that cuts us out of the pack. A BD that approves social media marketing of non-FINRA products and doesn't take an override. With the best competition desk in the industry, and for our loyal producers, a true group health plan. No one offers that. Brokers Alliance does.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I am your host, Steve Savannah, with Ken Davis, CPA, and we're talking about post-Obamacare and Obama tax sunsets could all be happening. It's interesting. I noticed that some people thought that the phrase Obamacare is somewhat derisive.
Yeah.
But I see nobody having any problems calling it the Bush tax cuts either.
Well, sure.
And what I like about our show is Ken and I are basically, I hate to confess our political standing, but we're pretty much libertarians, okay?
Right.
And because of that, we are equal opportunity offenders. We think both parties have done such a lousy job. Is that not true? I mean, we're there. The economics of both, and the extremes of both parties are killing everything.
Well, and we kind of alluded to it. I want a little more honesty in the code. The code is getting so complex. I said, maybe our politicians are being dishonest, but the reality is, I'm not sure they understand what they're talking about. I mean,
well, they didn't even read the people who are passing the Obamacare, they didn't even read the doc.
Well, that's right, and they're not experts on tax law.
Right.
And so the fact of the matter is, when they talk about income, they probably don't know what they're saying. So let's be a little nicer to these folks, but in that sense, but it's kind of tragic that they don't understand.
So they weren't dishonest, they were maybe ignorant.
Yeah, they're ignorant, but that's even scarier.
Yeah.
And then some of them do, but they're making the tax law. If you think about it, a long time ago, the analogy is that a chessboard, when you're playing the game of chess, in the center of the game, you attack the center because that's the most valuable real estate. That's like the top of the hill. Well, over the years, they learned what happens in those first few moves, so they had to start putting pressure on the surrounding real estate. Well, it's the same way here. They can't just come out politically and say, we're going to raise tax rates. They have to chip away a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, and a little bit there, and then it becomes impossible to understand, and it's impossible to report on on the nightly news because of sound bites. It's just too complicated. So it all just gets, buried. They accuse us of hiding behind, commissions on our products and not being totally honest and transparent. If we did any halfway what some of these politicians do, they'd throw us in jail, and it's just really not right. They need to be honest with the public as to what they're really doing and quit these little machinations behind the scenes. That I don't care which party it is.
Right, exactly.
They're all doing it, and they've done it for years. And I want some more honesty and transparency in our tax law so that we know what we're voting for.
Well, that's what we're talking about on our show. We're trying to say this is the number you're going to pay. And when I think about I'm already going to be paying taxes, now I have a higher net investment tax on Medicare, something I haven't even taken, I'm not even using the benefit yet.
Yeah, let's talk about that term. Net investment income is basically, once you hit these modified adjusted gross income thresholds, then the 3.8% tax kicks in, but then you have to have net investment income on which to tax, okay? So, and we're starting to talk about the older people, the people in retirement live on bonds, they live on their stocks, they live
Qualified
on
plans.
CDs, money market funds, stuff like that. And I mean, my gosh, look at CDs and money market rates are less than 1%, and now we have this tax on it. The other piece here is, we're going to be talking more about this later, is people didn't discover that they raised Medicare premiums based on a modified adjusted gross income, another modification years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago. So we 3.8% investment, Medicare tax. Then we have the sunsetting tax laws. And then we have the increase in increase of Medicare premiums, which isn't really a tax, but indirectly they've made it. You add that all up and look at the people that have passive income. It's retired folks. These are people on fixed income, okay? And so they're taking the artillery is pointed right at our retired folks. From our standpoint, while we dislike all of this as insurance agents, we have solutions for that. We're going to be talking about that later. And so while I don't like the changes, they're going to be wonderful for our industry in terms of selling products. So
I mean, financial advisors, we're going to really, if we understand this the way we're doing it for all this week, trying to explain it, we think it's going to be a huge boom before the end of the year. So if you're saying, wow, I need to know what all this is about, Ken's got a paper coming out. It's going to be all over the web. Just check it out. So whether it's on Producer's Web, Insurance Forum, we'll have it all out there for you. And if you write me and say, Steve, I can't find any of those sites because I'm inept on the net, no problem. Just write me The Biz and I'll send it to you. The Biz at brokersalliance.com. The thing I'm looking at this, and it's really the methodology to insert these stealth taxes is the new, what I would call the new political way of incrementalism.
Right.
We're really, it's just this, it's such a creep. I feel like the frog that started out in the water, standing still water, they turned up the heat, and I didn't know I boiled to death. You know what I mean?
Well,
I feel like it's too late.
I do, and the thing is, it used to be they would pit the wealthy against the poor, quote unquote. Well, what's happening now is they've got this class warfare thing going on of different pieces, people with investment income now. And so they break it apart, and they get these smaller and smaller groups and saying, we're going to do it to this group or this group and that group. And the others go, oh, well, that doesn't affect me, so I don't really care. Well, they just take individual pot shots at different groups and hit us. And I really have a problem with the politics of what's happening with our tax law. It shouldn't be political. It's there to raise funds to pay for our bills. It should be that simple.
Well, it isn't that simple, and unfortunately, we're moving to this through incrementalism, through a slow insertion of law that is changing the map. And I guess if you were talking about class warfare, you can say it's only going to hit the rich, but the math on the 1040 doesn't show it that way. We're talking about adjusted gross income. We're talking about modified gross income. Now we're talking about another additional hit, according to Obamacare, on Medicare net investment tax. It all adds up that we're going to be paying more. Well, listen, you can watch this show and our entire series all this week on www.brokersalliance.com. As soon as you come to our homepage, hit the on-demand red button. We'll have all this, including Ken's article out there. Get in the zone, the business insurance zone.
The Biz is brought to you by Brokers Alliance, a national leader in insurance products, support services, and educational workshops. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.